What's up? I'm Ace. You already knew that. Um, I don't normally make videos that often because I usually wait for something to talk about. A lot of content creators, they have like schedules once a week or whatever. I usually wait until I feel like doing it. Sometimes that can take a week, sometimes it takes a year, but whatever. The point of this video is that I'm here to say that social media needs to be destroyed. It needs to be destroyed. I remember when it first came out, how exciting it was because it's like, oh man, I get to like interact with people from other countries. Oh, this person's from China. How interesting, other people, other cultures. How cool is that? Um, Unfortunately, politicians and companies and advertisers have taken advantage of such a thing and turned it into a narrative generator. Um, to where now it exists solely to promote products or movements rather than solve problems or communicate with anybody. They'd rather be the loudest voice in the room. I get this image, right, of, somebody asking for help, and you get two people that'll come to you. You get the person who denies it all, where he's like, "Oh, you don't need help. You just want to take advantage of people so that they can get their money and support." And then you get the other person that says that they'll help you, but then like makes the message all about how they're going to help you rather than actually helping you, right? Like you see it all the time with like the Democratic Party about how they're the party that is like the human rights party and shit, and they promise that they're gonna fight for the American people and stuff, and yet they take egg pack money. Um, all this inaction, promising that they're gonna represent us. A voice isn't enough. You have to have a presence, and social media takes presence away and only leaves you with a voice. A voice can be ignored, right? They can tune that shit out or drown it in narratives. You know, um, that's why I was so, at first I was like, the No Kings protest was like, maybe finally people will like actually do something, right? And fight for change. But in the end, it just turned into people vibing in the streets. And it lasted like what, a day or two, and it was nothing. It was still back to status quo as usual. Trump is still the president. And social media has totally 100% pacified this country into silence or complicity. There's no fights for anything outside of social media. Once in a while, you'll get somebody that'll kick up dust, but that ultimately turns into nothing. AOC, Bernie Sanders going around, oh, we need to fight the oligarchs. Yeah, we need to stop them. But then AOZ goes and votes to send more weapons to Israel. And it's like, fuck, man. Where the fuck is our fucking representation? This pay to play bullshit needs to go away. And social media is a catalyst for complicity, right? Forgive my horrible pronunciation. My vocabulary isn't the best, all right? I'm not one of those big brain people. My skills lie in cybersecurity, not vocabulary. But you get what I'm saying, though, right? Social media has pacified the entire populace, into only thinking that the solution, it only so the only way that we can fight the system is to uh, become the main narrative talking point through social media. It has become like a staple of American life. Maybe if it was like, maybe if social media was how it was in the days of MySpace, it could work. But they're corporate, entities now. Even now on TikTok, they're drowning all, anti-capitalist perspectives and leftist perspectives and replacing them with conservative bots and fucking ridiculous people that are actively calling for fascism, because that's what companies love. Corporations and companies, they love fascism, because then that means workers don't exist. The working class doesn't exist under fascism. And it's so fucking crazy to me that we're just like, oh, we need to, talk about the issues. We need to sit in front of a camera with a big fancy microphone and have debates, and make sure that we stay educated. And that's pretty much all we can do. It's not enough. I miss the days when, back in the 60s, when they protested the Vietnam War, people would light themselves on fire. There was the Black Panther movement. That's how you fucking protest. You become a threat. Despite them, oh, you're going to be arrested if you take things too far with the protest. Good. If you get arrested for protesting, that means you did your fucking job as an American citizen. American citizens should be begging to get arrested for fighting for change. But nobody wants to do that. They're way too comfortable, just, oh, I mildly disagree. No, that's bullshit. You need to put your ass on the line. And, God fucking damn it. You know what would really send a message? We need to get mass groups of people to stand outside the houses of Congress members and politicians and corporate executives. We need to stand outside their fucking houses and make every minute of their life a big, massive fucking inconvenience until they give us what they want. Because this passive aggressive podcast bullshit is such a half-ass measure. It does nothing. They can ignore that shit, but they can't ignore an actual physical presence. And social media, they keep trying to destroy protests and everything too, and I get it. I remember when the Black Lives Matter protests started kicking up and they were marching, and I was like, yeah, finally the police are going to be held accountable and shit. But then the protests stopped. Did the police change? No. Police officers still beat the shit out of minority groups and black people. They still get slaps on the wrist for killing people. Nothing changed. There's still qualified immunity. Well, you think Trump gives a shit because a bunch of people are standing around outside with a bunch of signs? No. They don't care about that stuff. They get to just close the door and turn on the soundproof windows. They can ignore us. But they can't ignore us if we become an actual physical threat. I'm not calling for, us stabbing people, by the way. I want to make that clear. Because then that just gives them the excuse to give martial law. And that just creates a new problem. Right? But what I am saying is that we need to step up our game here, right? These podcasts, these talking issues out, they do nothing. It's half measure shit. We need to be standing outside their fucking houses and making it very clear that we are very pissed off. I saw photos today of one of AOC's buildings being destroyed with red paint. And it's like, yes, more of that. But with all politicians, all corporate executives, all health industry members and lobbyists should all have their houses destroyed with paint, their cars destroyed with paint. Everything should be a fucking inconvenience for them. They do not get to have fucking luxury and peace in this country if they keep destroying our lives. Fuck.